It started when a friend gave me a bird. I didn't ask for one, never wanted one, but there it was, a little cockatiel in a cage, dropped on my doorstep like an unwanted gift. The person who gave it to me didn't stay long. No real explanation, no instructions. Just the words, "take him," and then they were gone. I should have said no. Should have called after them, demanded a reason. But I didn't. I just brought the cage inside and set it on the table, staring at the thing inside to look normal. Gray and yellow, with little black eyes that watched me through the bars. It tilted its head, ruffled its feathers. Innocent enough. I named it Pip. For a while, Pip was just a bird. He chirped, shuffled around his cage, ate seeds, all the usual stuff. I barely paid him any attention. I'd hear the occasional flutter of wings when I walked past, but otherwise, he was quiet. Too quiet. That should have been the first sign. Most birds are noisy, but Pip hardly made a sound. No singing, no random squawks, just silence. Except for when I talked. Then he'd listen. I mean, really listen. He'd sit perfectly still, head cocked, eyes locked onto me like he was studying every word. It was unsettling, but I brushed it off. Birds mimic people all the time. I figured he'd pick up a word or two eventually, and he did. He started saying, "Hey, Pip," in my voice. A perfect copy. The first time I heard it, I actually laughed. It was funny. A dumb little bird doing what dumb little birds do. But then it got weird. Because Pip didn't just mimic words, he mimicked sounds. The creak of my chair, the distant hum of my fridge, the exact way my floorboards groaned when I walked over them. And then he started mimicking me, not just my words, my voice, my breathing. Wayside wo ni sat down. The quiet cough I made when I cleared my throat. And one night, when I was lying in bed, eyes drifting shut, I heard my own voice whisper, "Good night," from the cage in the other room. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go near the cage the next morning, just sat at the kitchen table, staring at it from across the room, sipping coffee I didn't even want. Pip watched me. His head twitched to the side, feathers ruffling slightly. He looked expectant, like he was waiting for me to say something. I didn't. Instead, I did something stupid. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and leaned in just close enough to speak. "Say something, Pip." Silence. He just sat there, still as a statue. I waited a few seconds, then shrugged, stopping the recording. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe stress, lack of sleep, or too much caffeine was messing with me. Then the phone chimed. A message. From my number. I opened it to voice memo. From me. Labeled, "Say something, Pip." Except I hadn't sent it. My stomach clenched. My fingers hovered over the screen. Slowly, I tapped play. Static, then breathing. Not mine. Too shallow. Too fast, then my voice crackling through the speaker. "Say something, Pip." And then, laughter. Not bird laughter, not human laughter. Something in between. Garbled, wet, like a throat full of gravel and broken glass. I nearly dropped the phone. Pip tilted his head the other way, and then, in my voice, perfect and clear, "Say something, Pip." I snatched a blanket off the couch and threw it over the cage. The room felt different after that. Wrong. Like the air had thickened, pressing against my skin. I went through the motions of my day, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Not just Pip. Something else. Night came. I didn't want to turn off the lights, didn't want to close my eyes, but I did. And in the quiet, just as sleep started to pull me under, I heard it. Not from the cage, not from my phone, from right beside my bed, my own voice. "Good night." I didn't move, didn't breathe. The room was dark, but I could feel it. Something close. Too close. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of dust and something else, something sour, like meat left too long in the heat. I reached for my phone. Slowly, carefully, my fingers trembled as I turned the screen on. The glow barely touched the shadows. I didn't want to look, but I did. Nothing. Just my nightstand, my dresser, the open doorway leading to the pitch-black hall. I exhaled. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe the stress, the lack of sleep. A rustling noise from the cage. The blanket shifted, just slightly. A small tremor, like something stirring underneath. I sat up, heart hammering. Pip had never made a sound at night before. Never rustled, never chirped. But now, there was a faint clicking noise, not beak tapping against the bars. Something else, like joints popping. I didn't want to check, but I had to. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, standing slowly, barely daring to breathe. The floor felt ice cold beneath my feet as I made my way to the living room. The cage sat in the same place, the blanket still draped over it, but the shape underneath looked wrong. Too tall. I reached out, hesitated, then yanked the blanket off. Pip was gone, but the cage wasn't empty. The perches were splintered, the food dish had been knocked loose, and in the center of the cage, nestled where Pip used to sleep, was a pile of feathers and bones, small, delicate bones. Not bird bones, fingers, tiny, curled fingers, no bigger than a sparrow's wing. My stomach clenched, my breath hitched in my throat. Then I heard it. A whisper, soft, just behind me. My voice. Say something, Pip. I turned, and the lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The whisper still hung in the air, curling around me like damp breath on the back of my neck. My voice. But I hadn't spoken. Something else had. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. The screen lit up, a tiny, feeble glow in the blackness. And in that glow, I saw them. Eyes. Not bird eyes. Too large, too wide, too wrong. Staring at me from the far side of the room near the open doorway. And then, a flutter. Not the light, rapid beat of wings. Something heavier, slower. Wet. The shape moved. A slinking, jerking shift like a puppet with tangled strings. The phone light barely touched it, but I saw glimpses I didn't want. Folds of flesh, a too long body, curled and cramped, as if it had been forced into something too small for too long. A beak. No, not a beak. A mouth. A thin, gaping slit in the middle of its face. And inside, teeth. Rows and rows of teeth. The voice came again, crackling, wrong, like a recording played underwater. Say something, Pip.